Okay, let's get into it. It is February 18th, 2026. We are officially on the other side of the All-Star break, which means we're deep into the dog days of the 2025-26 NBA season.
For sure. The home stretch.
And I have to be honest with you, and I think I speak for everyone listening right now. If you've been trying to predict who is actually going to hoist that trophy in June, you are probably exhausted.
Exhausted is definitely the right word. But it's a good kind of
Yeah, what do you mean?
It's the exhaustion that comes from genuine excitement. We are living through what everyone, not just historians, but like everyone watching, is already calling the parity era.
It is absolute chaos. I mean that in the best possible way.
Right.
I was just looking at the list of champions before we started recording just to, get my head straight. We've had 7 different champions in the last 7 years.
7. It's unheard of.
From the Raptors way back in 2019, all the way to the Oklahoma City Thunder lifting the trophy last year.
Yeah, in 2025. It's unprecedented, really. If you grew up watching the NBA in the 90s or even the 2010s, your brain is just wired to expect dynasties.
For sure. You expect the Bulls or the Lakers or the Warriors.
Exactly. You expect the same 2 or 3 teams to meet in June every single year. But those days, they feel like ancient history now. The script has been completely shredded.
And that, I think, is really the mission for this deep dive today. We've got a massive stack of notes here. Articles, legal briefs, historical records.
That's kinds of stuff.
And it all paints a picture of a league that's at this massive crossroads. On the one hand, you've got this incredible competitive balance. I mean, the Thunder just beat the Indiana Pacers in the finals.
Right.
That's a matchup that would have sounded like a joke 5 years ago.
Absolutely a joke. But now, business is booming. The new media rights deal is, it's astronomical. And the talent level across the board is just off the charts. There's always a but.
There's this massive shadow hanging over the court right now, isn't there?
You're talking about the gambling prosecution?
Exactly. The news from last October.
October 2025, it was a bombshell. The FBI arrests Terry Rozier, an active player, Chauncey Billups, a head coach, Damon Jones. It's the sort of headline that just shakes the very foundation of professional sports.
So that's our goal today. We want to connect these dots. How did a league started by, of all people, hockey arena owners, just to sell extra popcorn?
Yeah, right.
How did that evolve into this global juggernaut that is somehow juggling massive success with, well, a massive integrity crisis?
And that origin story, the hockey arena owners, it's so important. It sounds so unglamorous.
It does, especially for a league that's now all about high-fashion, celebrity row, billion-dollar valuations.
But that's the reality of it. It wasn't born out of some deep passion for the sport. It was born out of real estate.
So what does this all mean for the league in 2026?
It means that to understand the chaos of today, and to understand why the Thunder are the champs and why the FBI is making arrests, we have to go all the way back.
To 1946.
To 1946.
Okay, let's dive in then. So our source material says the Basketball Association of America, the BAA, was founded in June of 46. And you're telling me this wasn't really about a love of the game?
No, not at all. Not at its core. It was a landlord's solution to a landlord's problem.
Okay, explain that.
Well, you had these huge arenas in the Northeast and the Midwest. Think Madison Square Garden in New York, the Boston Garden. The guys who owned these buildings, the guys writing the checks, they had a gap in their calendars.
A pretty big gap.
A huge gap. They had hockey games, they had the circus, maybe a rodeo or a boxing match here and there. But they had dozens and dozens of empty dates on the calendar.
And an empty building doesn't make any money.
Exactly. An empty building is a money pit. So they looked at basketball, which was getting pretty popular in the colleges at the time, and they thought, hey, we have the seats, we have the lights, let's just put some teams together to fill the Tuesday and Wednesday nights.
So the NBA basically started as calendar filler, like a monster truck rally.
That's exactly what it was. And that first game, it really reflects that humble beginning. November 1st, 1946, Toronto Huskies versus the New York Knickerbockers at Maple Leaf Gardens.
And some guy named Ozzie Sheckman scored the first basket.
He did. It's a great trivia question. Historic moment, sure. But here's the thing you have to understand. The quality of the play.
Not so good.
It was not great because, and this is the key, the best basketball players in the world weren't even playing in the BAA.
So where were they?
Well, you had these amazing independent touring teams like the Harlem Globetrotters, who were significantly better than the actual league teams. They were the show. And then you had the rival league.
The NBL, the National Basketball League.
Right. And this is where the story gets into, like, full-on corporate warfare. The NBL had been around longer. It was more established. Crucially, they had the real talent. The better players were all in the NBL.
So what was their problem?
They played in small industrial towns in the Midwest, places like Sheboygan, Oshkosh, Fort Wayne.
Okay, not exactly the media capitals of the world.
Not at all. So meanwhile, the BAA has the big cities, New York, Boston, Philadelphia, and these massive, famous arenas. So the BAA just executed a corporate raid. It was basically a hostile takeover strategy.
They just poached all the good teams.
They looked at the NBL and said, we want your best assets. They lured them away. They went to the owners of the Fort Wayne Pistons and especially the Minneapolis Lakers.
Who had the biggest star in the game? George Mikan.
The first true superstar. And they promised them the bright lights. They said, come play in the Garden, come play in the big city where the newspapers are.
And it worked.
Oh, it works like a charm. The NBL just couldn't compete with that kind of allure. By August of 1949, the NBL basically surrendered. They agreed to a merger with the BAA, and that merger created the National Basketball Association as we know it today.
And looking at the notes here, the integration of the league starts pretty early in this process, too. It wasn't just a business story.
No, it's a crucial part of the history. You have Wataru Misaka, an Asian-American player who actually broke the color barrier in 1947, which is a fact that's often overlooked.
Wow, that early.
Yep. Then in 1950, you have the formal arrival of African-American players like Earl Lloyd, Chuck Cooper, and Nathaniel Sweetwater Clifton. So the league is diversifying right from its early days.
But even with the merger, and even with all the best players finally under one roof, the game itself had a fatal flaw, didn't it?
It was excruciating to watch. You just have to try and imagine basketball without a shot clock.
I can't. It feels so fundamental to the game, like a hoop or a ball.
Well, back then, if a team got a small lead, let's say they're up by 2 points in the third quarter, they would just stop playing.
What do you mean stop play?
They would just hold the ball, they'd pass it back and forth near midcourt, play catch. There was no rule that said they had to shoot.
So the defense just had to stand there and watch them.
Or foul them, which made the game even slower and uglier. It led to these incredibly low-scoring, boring games. I mean, fans were literally reading newspapers in the stands.
That's a bad sign.
A very bad sign. They were booing their own teams. You had games ending with scores like 19-18. It nearly killed the league before it ever really got going.
It's amazing to think the entire sport could have died right there because of a lack of a simple timer.
It was that close. So in 1954, they introduced the 24-second shot clock. And I will argue to my dying day that this is the single most important invention in the history of the sport.
Why 24 seconds? Was that just a random number?
It was math. Danny Biasone, who's the owner of the Syracuse Nationals, he and his general manager basically sat down with a stopwatch. They calculated the average number of shots in a game that was actually fun to watch, and they divided the total game time by that number.
And they came up with 24.
They came up with 24, and it worked instantly. It forced action. It forced teams to shoot. It created the rhythm, the flow of the game that we love today. It saved the entertainment value of the sport, full stop.
And that invention really paved the way for the first true superstars to shine. We enter what the historians call the era of giants.
Yep. The Minneapolis Lakers, led by George Mikan, were the first real dynasty. He was the first dominant big man superstar. He was so good under the rim that the league actually had to widen the lane from 6 feet to 12 feet just to push him further away from the basket.
They changed the rules because of him.
That's how you know you're a legend. He won 5 titles. But if we're talking about dynasties, the gold standard, the one that still kind of haunts the league in a way, is Boston.
The Celtics. I'm looking at this stat and it still just blows my mind. 11 titles in 13 seasons.
It's the longest championship streak in the history of American professional sports. 8 straight titles from 1959 to 1966.
8 in a row.
Think about that. For nearly a full decade, if you weren't wearing a Celtics jersey, you had zero chance of winning a championship.
And that entire era was defined by this one rivalry, Bill Russell versus Wilt Chamberlain.
It's the archetype for every great rivalry that followed. It's the classic debate, you know? On one side, you have Wilt Chamberlain, this individual force of nature. He's the guy dropping 100 points in a single game.
Which is still insane.
Completely insane. He averaged 50 points a game for an entire season, grabbed 55 rebounds in one game. If you just look at the stat sheets, Wilt is a basketball god.
But Bill Russell had the rings.
11 of them. Russell was the ultimate winner. He didn't care about his points. He only cared about the team's defense, about winning. He was the anchor. It was the classic stats versus winning argument, decades before Twitter existed to argue about it, 247.
And Russell's side won out.
Overwhelmingly. He proved that a cohesive team led by a defensive genius could consistently beat a singular, overwhelming offensive force.
But then we hit the 1970s, and the sources all suggest the league started to wobble again. The Celtics dynasty faded, and trouble started brewing.
Wobble is putting it lightly. By the late 70s, the NBA was in serious trouble. Attendance was dropping off a cliff.
Why? What happened?
There was a massive perception problem about drug use among the players. Cocaine was a major issue, and it was widely reported. The league was also seen as, well, too black for many white advertisers at the time, and just too chaotic for mainstream America. It had an image problem.
I read here that the finals were sometimes shown on tape delay.
Can you even imagine that today? In 2026, we're upset if the stream buffers for half a second. But back then, CBS would air the NBA Finals at 11:30 p.m., after the late news.
After the news.
Because they didn't think anyone would actually watch it live in prime time. The league was treated like second-tier programming, a total afterthought.
That sounds like a death spiral for a pro sports league, so who saved them?
Two guys who first met in the 1979 NCAA championship game, the most-watched college game of all time.
Magic Johnson and Larry Bird.
Magic and Larry. Lakers versus Celtics, the next generation.
But it was more than just a rematch of an old rivalry, right?
Oh, it was a narrative goldmine. It was perfect. You had the Showtime Lakers in Los Angeles, flashy, fast-paced Hollywood led by Magic Johnson's incredible smile and no-look passes.
Now on the other side.
You had the Boston Celtics, gritty, blue-collar, tough, physical, led by Larry Bird's quiet intensity and genius basketball IQ. It was East Coast versus West Coast, black versus white, flash versus fundamentals.
It was perfect casting for television.
It was. And between 1980 and 1989, one of those two teams was in the finals almost every single year. The Lakers won 5 titles. The Celtics won 3. They didn't just play basketball. They created a compelling story. They made the NBA must-see TV again.
They brought the advertisers back. They brought the fans back.
They saved the lead. And amidst all that, the league also introduced the three-point line in 1979, right as they were coming in.
Was that a big deal at the time?
Not at first. Everyone thought it was a gimmick, like from the ABA. Coaches hated it. They thought it was a circus shot. It took years, literally years, for teams to fully embrace the math behind it. That 3 is worth more than 2.
A pretty simple concept.
You'd think so. But Magic and Bird, they laid the red carpet for the guy who would take the league from national obsession to global phenomenon.
His airness. Michael Jordan.
The 1990s belonged to Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls. It's that simple. You had 2 separate three-peats, 91 to 93 and then 96 to 98, 6 titles in 8 years.
But it was more than just the titles, wasn't it? It was the cultural impact.
Absolutely. Jordan wasn't just a basketball player, he was a brand. He was arguably the most famous person on the planet. Sneakers, movies, commercials. He was everywhere.
And the pivotal moment for that global expansion was the summer of 1992.
Barcelona. The dream team.
I still see clips of that, and it's just awe-inspiring.
It was the first time NBA stars were allowed to play in the Olympics. You had Jordan, Bird, Magic all on the same team. Charles Barkley, David Robinson. It was like the Beatles of basketball decided to go on a world tour.
And they didn't just win gold.
They destroyed the competition. They won by an average of like 44 points. But more importantly, they sparked a global obsession. Kids in France, in Argentina, in China, in Africa, they watched that team and they said, I want to do that.
You can draw a straight line from the Dream Team in '92 to the flood of international talent we see dominating the league in 2026.
It's a direct line. The seeds that were planted in Barcelona blossomed into the forest we are living in right now.
We'll definitely get back to that international takeover because it's a huge part of the current landscape. But, moving into the 2000s and 2010s, it felt like we were still in the era of dynasties, just with different faces.
For sure. It was the era of the West's dominance, really. First, you had the Kobe Bryant and Shaquille O'Neal Lakers, a true force.
The three-peat.
Yep. And then you had the quiet dynasty of the Tim Duncan and Greg Popovich Spurs. Between 1999 and 2014, the Lakers and the Spurs combined for 10 titles.
10. That's an incredible concentration of power in just 2 franchises.
It really is. And then, of course, LeBron James enters the chat.
And he defined the entire 2010s, that streak of making 8 consecutive NBA finals.
It's absurd. First with the Miami Heat, then back with the Cleveland Cavaliers. We kind of took it for granted at the time because it was happening every year, but making the finals 8 years in a row is just superhuman.
And of course, his run collided with the rise of the Golden State Warriors dynasty.
The Steph Curry revolution. Steph, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, they completely changed the geometry of the game with the three-point shot. It wasn't a gimmick anymore. It was the primary weapon.
4 titles in 8 years for them. And that 73-9 record in 2016, breaking the Bulls' old record.
An incredible run. But even then, that 2016 finals.
Cleveland coming back from being down 3-1, that still gives me chills.
An all-time historic moment. But notice the pattern here. We're talking about the same 3 or 4 teams every single year. Lakers, Spurs, Heat, Warriors, Cavs.
Right, it was predictable.
Totally predictable. We knew who the main characters were before the season even started.
Which brings us to today, February 2026. Because that norm, that predictability, it's dead.
Completely dead and buried. Since 2019, the script has totally flipped. Let's just run through the list of champions again because it's worth hearing.
Go for it.
2019, Toronto Raptors. 2020, Lakers in the bubble. 2021, Milwaukee Bucks. 2022, the Warriors get one more. 2023, Denver Nuggets.
Then last year, 2024, the Celtics finally got their 18th title, breaking the tie with the Lakers.
And then 2025, the Oklahoma City Thunder.
7 years, 7 different champions. We haven't seen a repeat winner in almost a decade. Why is this happening? Is it just a coincidence? Is the talent just more spread out?
It is definitely not a coincidence. It is by design. Specifically, it's because of the new collective bargaining agreement, the CBA.
Right.
In 2023, the league and the players' union agreed to these new rules that introduced something called the second apron.
Okay. Apron sounds like we're about to start baking, but I know this is about money. So break it down for us. Why does this rule kill dynasties?
Think of it like a hard salary cap, but in disguise. It used to be that wealthy teams like the Warriors or the Clippers could just pay a luxury tax. If they went way over the salary cap, they just had to pay a fine.
And if your owner was billionaire, he didn't care.
Exactly. Steve Ballmer would just write the check and keep signing superstars. Money was no object. But the second apron changes the penalty. Now, if you go over that really high spending threshold, you don't just pay more money, you get handcuffed.
Handcuffed how?
The league takes away your tools. You lose the ability to trade your draft picks 7 years into the future. They just get frozen. You can't sign players who get bought out by other teams. You can't combine players' salaries in a trade to match a bigger contract.
So the league basically takes away your ability to improve your team. You're stuck.
It forces you to break up the band. It makes it almost financially and logistically impossible to keep 3 superstars together on maximum contracts. You have a very short window to win, and then the financial penalties basically force you to trade someone.
And that spreads the talent out across the whole league.
That's the idea. The whole super team model is now legislated out of existence. It's just unsustainable. Adam Silver, the commissioner, said it himself. The goal was to have 30 teams capable of competing for a title.
And looking at the standings in 2026, he kind of got his wish.
He really did. Any team that drafts well and manages their salary cap can win it all.
And the teams that just won, the Thunder, they seem like they were built perfectly for this new era.
They are the poster child for it. They didn't go out and buy a super team, they built it. They spent years accumulating draft picks. They suffered through losing seasons, and they developed their guy.
Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, he's the face of this new generation.
He really is. He was the 2025 scoring leader, the MVP, and the finals MVP. He just plays with this smooth, relentless, herky-jerky pace that nobody can seem to stop. And importantly, he's Canadian.
Which brings us right back to that dream team influence we were talking about earlier. The international talent is just... it's not a novelty anymore. It's the whole show.
It's the dominant story of individual talent in the league right now. I mean, just look at the MVP list. For 7 straight seasons, from 2018-19 all the way through this current cycle, the MVP of the league has been an international player.
That is a staggering stat.
Think about the names. You've got Giannis Antetokounmpo from Greece, Nikola Jokić from Serbia, who won 3 of them, Joel Embiid from Cameroon, and now Shai from Canada.
It's wild that the best players in the National Basketball Association aren't from the United States anymore.
It completely challenges that old USA versus the world narrative we grew up with. The world is here, and they're winning the biggest awards. And remember, the NBA's definition of international is anyone from outside the 50 states and D.C.
Right, so even Tim Duncan counted because he was from the U.S. Virgin Islands.
Exactly. But these guys now, Shai, Jokić, Luka Doncic from Slovenia, they are the system, they run the league, they control the game.
Okay, let's pivot a little to the actual structure of the league itself. For someone who might be tuning in this season, maybe they stepped away for a few years, what does the NBA calendar actually look like now?
It's still a grind, but they've added some new wrinkles to spice it up. It's still an 82-game season. We've got 30 teams, 29 in the U.S., and, of course, the Toronto Raptors up in Canada. The season runs from October to April.
But they've tweaked the format recently to keep people interested during those long winter months.
Yeah, the big one is the in-season tournament.
Right.
That was introduced back in the 2023-24 season. It's basically a cup competition like you see in European soccer that happens in the middle of the regular season. The games count toward the normal standings, but there's a separate trophy, the NBA Cup, and significant prize money for the players.
I remember a lot of people were skeptical at first.
Oh, very skeptical. People were saying, why do we need another trophy? This is just a gimmick. But it was designed specifically to cure the November-December boredom.
That lull before the big Christmas Day games.
Exactly. That period where casual fans tend to tune out. And it brought this playoff-level intensity to a random Tuesday night in November. And now, looking back from 2026, you have to say it's actually worked pretty well. The players care because of the money, and that makes the games better.
And then, after the regular season, we have the play-in tournament before the actual playoffs even start.
That has been a massive game changer for competitive balance. It used to be simple. The top 8 teams in each conference made it, and if you were 9th, you went home. That meant a lot of teams would just give up late in the season or tank to get a better draft pick.
But now, seeds 7 through 10 have to battle it out for those last 2 spots.
Exactly. The 7th and 8th seeds play one game, winner gets in. The 9th and 10th seeds play an elimination game. It keeps way more teams trying to win late into the season. It adds this high-stakes single elimination drama right before the main course of the playoffs.
And the playoffs themselves are still the same format.
Still the classic best-of-7 series. No reseeding. It's a fixed bracket. You have to survive 4 grueling rounds. First round, conference semis, conference finals, and then the NBA finals to win the Larry O'Brien Trophy.
We mentioned the money earlier with the apron, but let's talk a bit more about the business side. The NBA it's incredibly rich.
It is a financial juggernaut. It's the second wealthiest pro sports league in the world, right behind the NFL. And because the rosters are so much smaller, only about 15 guys compared to 53 in football, the NBA players are, by average annual salary, the highest paid athletes on the planet.
And the really big news for this 2025-26 season, the one we're in right now, is the huge shift in media rights.
NBC is back.
I have to admit, hearing that Round Ball Rock theme music again,
Yeah.
the nostalgia is very real.
It hit a lot of people right in the feels. The new 11-year deal kicked in this season, so you still have ABC and ESPN with their package of games, but now you've got Amazon Prime Video streaming games, and you have NBC and their Peacock service back in the mix.
And NBC losing the rights back in 2002 was such a huge cultural shift.
It was. For a whole generation, that music was the NBA. Having them back feels like a homecoming for a lot of older fans.
It's interesting how they're targeting different demographics. You have Amazon for the younger, cord-cutting crowd, and then broadcast TV for the traditionalists.
They have to.
Okay.
The NBA has the youngest audience of any of the major American sports. Something like 45% of the viewers are under 35. These are people who don't have cable. They live on streaming services. So putting games on Prime is just meeting them where they live.
It's also the most diverse audience.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's the only top North American sport without a white majority audience. And that diversity drives a lot of the marketing strategy, a lot of the storytelling.
Speaking of marketing,
Yeah.
let's talk about the jerseys, the sponsorships.
The patch. Yeah, that started back in the 2017 season. It's just a small 2.5-inch square on the shoulder. It seemed so controversial at the time. People were screaming about ads on jerseys.
And now you barely even notice it.
Now it's just normal, and it just generates hundreds of millions of dollars for the league. It was inevitable.
And Nike took over the uniforms in 2017, too. They completely changed the naming conventions.
They did. They got rid of the simple home is white and away is color. Now it's the Association Edition, which is white, the Icon Edition, which is the main team color, the Statement Edition, which is an alternate, and then the City Editions.
The city editions are the fun ones because they change every single year.
It's a brilliant revenue stream. It almost forces diehard fans to buy a new jersey every single season just to stay current. It's basically fast fashion applied to sports. They say it ties the team to the local culture, which it does, but mostly it ties the fans' wallets to the team store.
And here's where we have to take a serious turn. It's not all just cash flow and cool jerseys and fun tournament games. We have to talk about the elephant in the room, the dark side.
This is where the story of the modern NBA gets really complicated and, frankly, quite ugly. We have to talk about gambling.
Right. So for context, in 2018, the Supreme Court overturned the federal ban on sports betting. And the NBA didn't just accept it, they embraced it.
Embraced is putting it mildly. They sprinted towards it with open arms. Adam Silver, the commissioner, was actually one of the first sports execs to write an op-ed saying, we should legalize this and regulate it. He argued it would bring integrity and transparency to something that was already happening in the shadows.
And the league signed huge partnership deals.
Massive deals with DraftKings, FanDuel, MGM. If you watch a broadcast today, the betting lines are right there on the screen. The announcers talk about the over-under on a player's points.
It's completely integrated into the product.
It is the product now, in many ways. But this opened a Pandora's box, because the history of gambling in the NBA is, well, it's traumatic. You have to remember what happened in 2007.
Tim Donaghy.
Tim Donaghy, he was a veteran NBA referee, and he went to federal prison because he was betting on games that he himself was officiating.
It's the ultimate conflict of interest.
Absolutely. He claimed he wasn't fixing the games in the traditional sense, but that he knew the other refs' tendencies, he knew how the league office wanted a series to go, and he bet accordingly. He made these specific, explosive allegations about the 2002 Kings-Lakers series.
The infamous Game 6.
Infamous Game 6, where the Lakers shot 27 free throws in the fourth quarter alone. I mean, that game is legendary for all the wrong reasons. I still watch clips of it and just shake my head.
Right. The league survived that.
They did. They painted Donaghy as a rogue actor, a lone bad apple. They said, we fixed the problem, our refs are clean. But fast forward to October 23, 2025.
This season's bombshell.
The FBI executes arrest warrants. They arrest Terry Rozier, an active player for the Miami Heat. They arrest Chauncey Billups, the head coach of the Portland Trail Blazers, and Damon Jones, a former player.
An active player and a head coach, that is.
Yeah.
That's unprecedented in modern American sports.
It is the absolute nightmare scenario for any league. And the charge isn't just that they were, placing a few bets on their phones. It's that they were connected to a federal investigation into the American mafia.
Wait, the mafia in 2025? It sounds like a movie plot.
That's what makes this so jarring and so scary. We all thought we were past the Goodfellas era of sports fixing, but the allegation is that massive gambling debts were accrued and that organized crime figures were then exerting influence on these guys to try and clear those debts.
That strikes at the very heart of the integrity of the game that Silver is always talking about.
It completely destroys it. Think about it. If a coach makes a weird substitution in the fourth quarter, or a player misses 2 crucial free throws, or a star suddenly sits out with back soreness, and you know they are under federal indictment for gambling connections, how do you trust what you're seeing?
You can't. You start questioning everything.
How do you know that missed shot wasn't on purpose to cover the spread? You can't. And the terrible irony is, the league is taking sponsorship money from the betting companies while its own employees are being arrested for betting-related crimes.
It's a huge conflict.
That's the tension. Adam Silver wanted a regulated market to protect the game. But when gambling is everywhere, when it's normalized, when it's on the jersey and on the TV screen, the line between fan engagement and potential for corruption gets incredibly blurry for everyone, apparently even for the people on the court and on the bench.
And it's not just gambling, though. The NBA has faced other headwinds recently. Viewership was dropping pretty significantly for a while, right?
Yeah, between about 2012 and 2019, they lost somewhere around 45% of their viewership on traditional TV. And the 2020 finals in the bubble had the lowest ratings ever recorded.
Why was that happening?
It's a mix of things. Cord cutting is the big obvious one. Younger fans watch highlights on TikTok and YouTube. They don't sit through a 3-hour game with commercials.
There was also the load management issue.
A huge issue. Star players resting during nationally televised games. If you buy an expensive ticket to see the Bucks and Giannis sits out with a sore ankle that nobody believes is real, you feel cheated. And, the political polarization of the country played a role, too. The league is very progressive, the players are very vocal, and in a divided country, that unfortunately did turn some viewers off.
And speaking of politics, there's this sports washing critique, especially regarding their international games.
Right. The preseason games in Abu Dhabi in the UAE, The league has been going there since 2022 to try and grow the game globally. But in 2024, there was heavy criticism because of the UAE's human rights record and their involvement in the Sudanese civil war.
Critics say the NBA is helping to clean up the image of an authoritarian regime in exchange for money.
That's the argument. Human Rights Watch wrote letters, activists called for the games to be canceled. The NBA's stance is usually that engagement is better than isolation. But when you preach social justice at home and then take oil money from regimes that suppress it abroad, it can look like hypocrisy. It's just the messy reality of being a massive global corporation in 2026.
Okay, so let's pull back and look at the league today in February 2026. Despite the scandals, despite the chaotic parity, is the league healthy?
Financially, yes, absolutely. The new TV deal secured the bag for the next decade. The apron system, for all its complexity, has successfully killed the super team, which means fans in places like Oklahoma City, Minneapolis, and Indiana actually have legitimate hope. And that is incredibly valuable for the long-term health of the sport.
And the actual product on the court, the talent level.
It has never, ever been higher. The average skill set of an NBA player today is just light years ahead of where it was in the 90s. Everyone can shoot. Everyone can dribble. We have 7-footers like Wemby and Chet Holmgren who play like point guards. The product on the floor itself is spectacular.
So what does this all mean for you, the person listening to this?
It means we are in completely uncharted territory. The era of the guaranteed dynasty is over. If you're a fan, your team, no matter where they are, has a legitimate path to a title if they manage their cap space and draft well. That's incredibly exciting.
But there's a flip side.
There is. You also have to watch with a more critical eye now. When you see a weird foul call in the last 2 minutes or a star player misses a key game, the shadow of that 2025 gambling scandal is going to be in the back of your mind. You can't unknow that.
Integrity is fragile.
It's very fragile. The NBA spent 80 years building it up from those empty hockey arenas, and they could lose it a lot faster than that if they aren't extremely careful.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground today, from 1946 in Toronto to 2025 in Oklahoma City. From the merger to, well, the mafia. The NBA is nothing if not dramatic.
It's the greatest soap opera on earth, just played by the greatest athletes on earth.
I like that. Before we go, here's a final thought for you to chew on. We talked so much about the international players taking over Shai, Jokić, Luka, Giannis. The NBA has always been seen as an American export. It represents American culture to the world. But if the very best players, the faces of the league, are no longer American, does the NBA eventually stop being an American league and just become a global league that happened to play most of its games in the U.S.? And if so, does that change how we as American fans connect with it?
That is the billion-dollar question. And looking at the next generation of talent coming up from all over the world, I think we might already have our answers.
Thanks for diving in with us today. Keep watching the games, enjoy this incredible parity era, but maybe keep one eye on the news ticker, too. You never know what's coming next in this league. Catch you next time.